Welcome back, South Carolina, for another episode of Podcast 1854. I'm your host, Brandon Peak, and today we have Mark Weber, the chairman of the Lexington County Republican Party, and the first vice chair, Debbie Hiem, the Lexington County Republican Party.
Yep.
How are you guys?
Yep, doing good. Thanks for having us.
Good,
Yes,
that's
thank
awesome.
you.
I appreciate y'all coming today.
We'll appreciate your time.
Yes, sir. So you want to introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about what you guys have going on at the
Okay.
Republican Party in Lexington County?
You want to start, or I'll start? I'll start.
Go ahead, Mark.
I'm Mark Weber, Lexington County Republican Party chair. Been chair for about 14, 15 months now. Had some hiccups along the way last year, and got elevated, I guess, to the role of having to kind of lead the party, and then was elected by the executive committee back in January of last year.
Mhm.
And since then we've been working hard like crazy, and Debbie came on just like a month after I did, because I was first vice chair at the time when the former chair kind of removed herself by suing some party members. And that was a violation of one of the rules for the South Carolina State Republican Party.
Yeah.
So at that point, she removed herself, and then we had to have an election for chair. And then I went ahead and ran, and then that opened up the seat, first vice chair, and that's when Debbie ran and was elected.
Yeah, so that would have been, I guess, February of 2024.
Okay.
And then at that point we had, our team of officers. We had 2 who still weren't coming to the meetings out of our 5, but then that gave us the 3. So we got right to work getting committees filled and taking care of business and getting back on track. And
Yeah.
I think we've done a really good job. I mean, the feedback from people is that's been really good.
Yeah.
So,
I would think most people can see that the party's changed a lot in the last year and a half. And, we're consistently having great numbers showing up for our monthly meetings, first Monday of each month at the Flight Deck restaurant in downtown Lexington. And so I think we've been super active, doing all kinds of different things, resolutions, trying to impact our community in a positive way.
And I've seen firsthand the attendance that you guys pulled in, and I was there a month or so ago, and I mean it was just it was packed. I was like, wow. I mean, that's amazing. So you guys together were able, with your team, was able to bring kind of like the life back to the party in Lexington County. Yeah,
because we've had a whole, like Debbie had said, several of the elected officials from the last county convention stopped participating when the former chair was removed, and then that was kind of a split at that point, and so we had to try to build things back. And so because of that, I think it kind of drew us closer together, because anytime you go through kind of a, for lack of a better word, baptism of fire, you're going through an event together, it tends to draw those folks closer together as a team. And so I think that's the key word that I like to use, is that we really are a team. I think we're all pretty selfless, trying to be good servants for our community. The Lexington County Republican Party, really only exists as a subset from the South Carolina Party, and so we realize that, and realize if we're going to have an impact in our community, we have to draw together as a team and really work for our community. So every one of us kind of tries to pull whatever weight we can. And fortunately, a lot of us have the time to do that. And so we've been working real hard.
Yeah, I think a reason, Brandon, when you mentioned that we have so many people that come to our meetings, there are business meetings. And so there's roughly maybe 40, 45-ish or so voting members of the party there. But we're getting more than double that number who aren't voting members, because everybody's welcome to come. You don't even have to be a member or even live in our county, and you'd be welcome to come. But people feel informed when they come. They're learning how government works. They're learning and seeing how we can influence and make change. They're learning about candidates and campaigns. They're coming and hearing from elected officials. I mean, we've had people from county council to legislators, even up, to just different levels. And so we're getting FaceTime with elected officials throughout. And that's important because I think when we bring everybody into a room, we develop those relationships so that we can get things done. I mean, just at our last meeting, I was talking to a party member afterwards, and she says, I'm sitting here, and 2 days before, she was at a different event at ReOrg and speaking with Congressman Joe Wilson and how we need, road funding in Lexington County. I mean, we just really do. Across the state, we're known for that, unfortunately. And lo and behold, in walks in this meeting of 100 people, and right next to her is a staffer for Joe Wilson. And so they're talking, and he's like, well, it's all these government agencies that come together. And he mentions the COG, the Central Midlands Council of Governments. And lo and behold, a COG board member, a citizen board member who got just appointed a little over a year ago from our county council to sit on the COG, walks in right across the table. So suddenly you're face to face with all these people. And that's just how you start to get these conversations going so we can move in the direction of doing what's best for our community. And that's really what it's about. It's about bringing people together, and whether people have a little bit of time to give or a lot, or they have maybe a technical skill set, maybe they're really big on medical freedom, or maybe they want to work in other areas, or they have campaign skills, or they just want to really vet candidates, or things like that. We can take that huge variety of skills and we can bring it to our team. And I think that the Republican Party is a very large tent right now.
Yes,
and that's what we are, and that's what we're about.
That's amazing. Yeah.
And we've been trying to really find ways for folks to get involved. One of my big focuses, and one of the big problems we had with the former chair, was that she wasn't forming committees. That was my personal problem with her. And so as first vice chair, I'm reading the rules, and I know we're supposed to have passed a budget. We're supposed to have committees formed. And we're a month, 2 months into our term. This is almost 2 years ago now. And it's like, well, wait, we haven't done these things. Why are we not doing these? And so that was one of my big focuses. I've been involved in a lot of different boards, a lot of different nonprofit and volunteer organizations. And I know you've got to use the skill set you have around, the volunteers that are around you, and try to put them together into a team to be successful. Everyone brings unique skill sets, and you need to try to find ways for them all to contribute, feel like they're contributing, be a part of it. So there's tons of committees that we have, I wanted to form, and we have working committees that are actually doing things. So, anywhere from, things that folks are an audit committee, taking a look at our finances, making sure that we're following the rules, that we're having 2 signatures on our expenses that are going out. And our audit committee just came together just last month, or maybe it was early this month, and actually reviewed that and can confirm that everything's going smoothly. That's kind of one of the more critical things in an organization, obviously taking care of your finances and making sure that no one can honestly say that there's any financial malfeasance going on.
That's a big deal.
And that was a big deal in our party, unfortunately, before, because the past 2 chairs had some issues with that. And the last one, at the last meeting, we were made whole from the chair prior that had done some things, but he made it good by providing the checks and making the county whole. So that's another great thing that I feel really good about my term. The 14 months that I've been chair, is that we've been able to continue to put in processes and get people involved, and our finances are good. Our committee structure is good. We've got great attendance at meetings. Things are going well, and I think even folks that sometimes are detractors of us realize and have said publicly things are going really well. I mean, we're really moving in the right direction. We're having an impact in our community, and that's what we all need to do.
Yeah. That is amazing. And for 14 months. And then you said, Debbie, you come in right after, about a month after. So that's incredible, and then to have you guys together as a team today, that's pretty awesome. That is.
Well, I appreciate you doing the format like this and having both of us, because it is about a team. It really is. I mean, we have to have a team, and that's why moving forward for our county convention coming up on Saturday is we need to round out that team. We had a couple holes in that team. Like I said, for the last year, 2 critical pieces were the state EC and the second vice chair that have been non-participants for the last 14 months. So the rest of us had kind of filled in the gaps and tried to take up those responsibilities. But we really wanted to, and we had internal conversations about the leadership team to try to figure out how do we fill those gaps. Because again, as chair, my role is to strengthen the party and grow the party. And in order to do that, you have to have people sitting in the right chairs doing the right thing. So if you have two holes in critical positions, you need to find a way to have people step up and fill those roles. And if no one is organically coming up, then you need to go out and try to search and try to recruit and encourage people.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what we did recently. Not trying to do something secretively or anything. It's just that's what the dynamics are in a large organization. When you have 120 people showing up on a monthly basis to your meetings, you want to make sure you're getting things done, that you're feeding them.
Yeah.
They feel like they're accomplishing something. In order to do that, we have to have the right people to do that. In order to get the right people, sometimes you have to recruit people. It's like going to church. A lot of times they say, people will come to church if you just ask them, if you invite them, and invite them to come along with you. And so we're inviting people to come along, be a part of the Lexington County Republican Party, and find a way to get plugged in. We got 10 committees you can get involved with. We've got all kinds of opportunities to get involved because we get involved in campaigns. This last year, we started getting involved in the campaigns, and one of the critical things was the school boards, that we felt like there's a real need. I think anyone that's rationally looking at our situations can see that school boards are impacting our children. A lot of tax dollars go to the schools, and we need to make sure that those are being accounted for correctly. So we got really involved with the endorsement committee, and I know Debbie was very helpful in that regard as well, trying to understand where are we on some of these local races, and getting involved in the school boards was a huge deal.
Yeah, well, people don't realize because here in South Carolina, your county collects your taxes that also fund your schools. So you may be writing out a check, whether it's your vehicle or rental property or your primary residence, whatever it is, you're writing out that check for the property you own to the county of Lexington in our instance. But the vast majority of those taxes are going to your schools. And people don't really realize that they're spending the vast majority of the local revenue that's collected through that funding source. And so it is important who's making those decisions. When we have children that aren't reading and writing at grade level, that's concerning to me because that's our future. I have 6 kids myself, and if they're not reading or writing, we want that. Yet sometimes in some of our school districts, I heard a senator a couple years back in a committee hearing refer to one of the high schools in our district as the Taj Mahal. And River Bluff High School. It's true. There's a lot of money that was put in the school to make it's almost, they kind of consider it a mini college campus.
Oh, wow.
It's a lot of money, but we have kids who are going through the school system here in this district that can't read and write. And we need to remedy that. And we're taking lots of tax dollars out of everybody in this county is paying tax dollars into this. And are we really following and tracking what's going on with our school board? There's 5 school districts in Lexington County. Why so many? What's going on? What are ways that we can maximize what we're getting out? What are the things that are working? In my school district, they were using a phonics program or a reading program for years that didn't teach phonics. No wonder our kids aren't learning to read. So those kinds of things are very important. It's making sure that our future is secure, and we want to take care of our community. We all live here, we work here, we play here.
That's right.
It matters to us.
Yeah.
And so being involved, and I think that the more citizens are informed about what's going on, then they're going to make the right decisions at the ballot box.
Yeah.
And we need to
more engaged that way as well.
Yeah.
And we need to encourage folks to really get involved and understand. A few years back, I went and set up a meeting with my school board, with the school board chair, and it took a while. It took a long while for the school board chair to accept my meeting. I think because he thought I was going to go and complain about taxes. And while most of us know that a lot of the taxes come from us, from property taxes through the state, and then the state actually goes and funds the school boards through the homestead exemption kind of stuff that gives us as property owners an exemption. But still, they're getting funded, and per pupil, we're spending a lot of money. So the questions I wanted to ask weren't tax related, but it was funny, and I have to mention this because when I went in there, when I finally got the meeting set up, after I called the actual superintendent of the school and said, I'm going to come and meet you tomorrow. I'm going to be there. If the school board chair wants to be there, great. If he doesn't, that's fine, but I'm coming. Then all of a sudden, the school board chair was there. And they were loaded with, they knew exactly where I lived, what my address was, how much taxes I paid, and they were ready to answer the tax question. The questions I wanted to know was, what's the per pupil spending? What's the student-teacher ratio? And the question, like Debbie said, is that I live in a very rural area where we have one school board or one school district has a high school, a middle school, a primary school, and an elementary school. It has 4 schools, one in each grade level. And I'm questioning, why are we having what I'm thinking is large infrastructure overhead for a school district when we only have 4, schools in that district? Does it make sense to consolidate it? Local control, I can understand that, but I wanted to have that conversation with the folks there and understand more about my local area. So we're trying to encourage people, and the reason I bring this up is just to go out and meet your legislators, meet the people that are spending your tax dollars. Go in and have conversations with your local House rep, your state senator. If they don't respond, go to their office, drop off a business card, drop off a note. They will respond to you at that point. We have to be active and we have to get engaged in our community because it's our community.
Exactly.
And
right.
And it's important for them to see our intent to be involved and to make a difference.
Yeah.
So I think it's critical.
Yeah, it is. And it all starts at the local level. I know sometimes some of us get wrapped up in national politics, and we tend to brush off what's going on and how much influence it has on a local level, by whether it's going to the city council, county council, the school board, all that's important. And like you say, by engaging in that, and that's what we need. We need more engagement all across. I say not just the state, but just everyone needs to be more involved.
And that's what we really need to focus on, is things are going great for us as conservatives at the national level. People are really excited about what President Trump is doing. I think a lot of folks understand that President Trump has about 2 years to get a lot of things done. Mm-hmm. And because then at that point, unless he finds some way to run as a third term, and I know he's been throwing those snake cans out there for the media to jump all over.
He's good at that.
And I love that stuff about him because he just gets them all riled up.
Yeah, he does.
But so we have 2 years to get a lot of things done, and it's just coincidental that our terms, if we're reelected on Saturday, are 2-year terms. I really feel like right now is a critical time for us to continue the progress that we've been making in Lexington County too, because as you say, local level is the closest level that government gets to people. Mm-hmm. And we need to not rest on our laurels or be too excited about what's happening nationally, realizing that we can really and need to make a difference locally and stay engaged. Don't lose that enthusiasm. The next 2 years are going to be really critical on the national level, and I think really for our party in Lexington County. We've come out of some challenging times the last couple of years. In the 14, 15 months that we've made some significant changes at the county party level, and there's a lot more that we can do, but we're building those relationships. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a big thing that Debbie and I really realize is that having relationships where our legislators feel the need to interact with us, come to our meetings, speak at our meetings, that's critically important. You can ask tough questions. And I had an old senator say to me years ago when I was on town council down in Cordova in Orangeburg County, he said, "We can disagree without being disagreeable."
There you go.
I think that's and he said in the Southern vernacular, "We can disagree without being disagreeable." But it was, I've always remembered that, and it'll always stick with me because we can. We can disagree civilly and have conversations, but we have to have those conversations.
Yes.
If you are really going to change stuff at the federal, state, local level, you need to have conversations with those elected officials. Mm-hmm. If you offend them, then that is a problem. And they don't want to communicate. They don't want to attend your meetings. And we're trying to build that trust level back. So they are participating. And
Yeah.
on Monday, this next Monday, we are having a local representative come talk to us about the 250th anniversary celebrations that we're getting ready to celebrate. And she's on some committee of something, and we're going to find out more information. So it's another one of those reasons for people to come to our meetings, to get engaged, to learn, to understand, to find ways to get involved. And it's an exciting time. I mean, we've got a lot more to do, but we're willing to put the time in, because I think we've got a unique group of people that we've had in office that have the opportunity, have the time to spend and dedicate it to it. County party politics can be very time-consuming and draining, and it's been a lot more involved than I thought it was going to be. I know my wife would say that as well. I know your husband would say the same thing probably as well. But you've always been involved in a lot of things. You're on the zoning board of appeals, I think, out there. You've been involved in a ton of different things. But that time management and trying to make sure that we've got folks that have the time to dedicate to our passion, Republican Party politics in our county is critical.
Yeah, I have a very supportive family. I'll put it that way. My husband takes care of things, and I'm a stay-at-home mom. I homeschool my kids. We've got 2 off in college, and then we've got the other 4 at home. 2 are in high school. I mean, I'm teaching my 4th kid how to drive right now. That's going wonderfully, actually. And so we're kind of at the tail end of raising the kids. And I feel a great responsibility. When you talk about a community, we need somewhere to live that's safe. We need somewhere to live that's clean, and we need somewhere to live and for our children to grow up in that has economic opportunity. And that is your town council, that's your county council, that's your planning commissions, that's your zoning, that's all of those very local things. And yes, we need state laws that will give them the tools to implement things that are best for our communities, that protect our freedom, and just regulate the things that we agree to have regulated so that we can all thrive. Yeah. And that's what we want for our kids. That's what we want for our community. And so you bring that local level, the towns, the municipalities, and the county, and you bring that with your state house, with your legislators. You bring that with the federal congressmen too, and you just make all of that work together. They know each other, and then you bring in, as a party, what we really are is we're the grassroots. We're the everyday regular people, and we come in as the groundswell around, behind, and supporting, and together with these people to build the community we want. I truly, in my heart of hearts, I believe in the model of government where we are self-governed. And that is what we're seeking. That's what we work to build. And that's what we have the opportunity here to have, because not every state has the opportunity to do those things. I mean, some states are fighting things, and I'm not saying that our elections here are perfect, but some states are fighting battles that we don't have to fight here in South Carolina, and I'm very thankful for that. But that doesn't mean that we sit complacently we just rest on it. We just roll up our sleeves and we get to work every day.
There's still stuff to be done.
And one of the things that we just did recently and are going to do later this week too is the Medical Affairs Committee hearing that the Senate is going to have on Thursday for the Dr. Simmer nomination. A lot of us, I think, share the viewpoint that the vaccination mandates and the way that we responded to COVID were pretty atrocious.
Yes, they were.
And for Dr. Simmer to kind of just go along with the NIH's viewpoints on things with Dr. Fauci's proclamations was a real concern. And Dr. Simmer, for everyone probably that follows your podcast knows, but just in case they don't know, is DHEC is getting split off into an environmental portion and a medical kind of portion. And Simmer has been nominated by our governor to do that part of the medical side. Well, we attended the Medical Affairs Committee last week, and the follow-on is now this week, and we're going to be there as well with a number of people from Lexington County. Being so close to the State House, we're able to kind of go and participate in some of those things. But we are being pretty active and pretty aggressive. I mean, Debbie and I were able to have an opportunity at a GOP Christmas party to have a moment with the governor and lieutenant governor.
Okay, that's pretty awesome.
Well,
Yeah.
we took that opportunity, Debbie primarily,
Well,
but I
that's my
supported.
fault. My fault. I'm sorry. I probably broke protocol because
But I love it. I love
probably
it.
at a Christmas party, you're probably not supposed to talk business, but
We
we
did.
had a great opportunity. I mean, and
Couldn't
Pamela
get
just
past.
opened the door, the lieutenant governor. And so I walked right in, and Mark was supportive of that. And we had a great conversation with her. You know, she definitely appears to support medical freedom, preventative stuff, taking care of yourself. Like your body is a gift and you can be strong on its own, but we don't need these mandates coming in.
Yeah,
And so it was an opportunity to share how we feel about that and to present. She said, I think that it sounds like you have somebody else in mind to be the director of South Carolina Public Health. And I
Yes.
said, well, I think I do.
Yeah.
I hadn't talked to them about it then, but yeah. And so you continue to have that dialogue and those phone calls and emails with them and with their staff,
Mhm.
because we're not just coming here to complain. We're coming and we can also provide solutions. I think that for any problem we have, we can just think critically, we can put people together and we can find the solution for our situations. And that's part of self-government too.
Yes,
And
it
so-
is.
And,
Yes,
and,
it
if, and if you present a problem, if you don't present a solution, you're just complaining. But if you present a solution, you're trying to solve the problem,
That's
or you're
right.
trying to help solve the problem. And we're going to be active and continue to do that. We're not about complaining. We're not about browbeating people. We're about having conversations with people and trying to change hearts and minds
Mhm.
for the direction that we feel we should go, conservative principles.
Yeah.
So, so we've been active, and I'm happy to be part of the team that are doing that. It's important. It's important stuff. It impacts all of our lives. It impacts our kids and our grandkids.
It does, and that's why I do what I do. It's for my children, and one day their children, so my grandchildren, and it is scary to think about. I mean, it really is. It got to a point where you sit back and you look at a little baby, you're holding him or her in your hands, and they're just born, and you're just like, wow, you know, like you see the world differently. And now you see where change is. Okay, I need to be active here. Like you say, you can't just sit on your hands. You know, you can't. And I feel like, you know, we've done that as a country for the last, let's just say, decade or two in general when it comes to certain issues, especially mental health, you know. And that's why now all these issues that are mental health issues, they're the left's that's their talking points. That's what they go to. That's what they support, you know. And it's like, instead of fixing it, you're politicizing it. You know, you're just using that, like, okay, here we'll act like that you're a cat, and you can wear your ears, and you can go to work, and you can put a tail on, and you can still have a job. Or if you want to be a rabbit or a zebra or a giraffe, like, oh, that's fine, that's
All
cool.
furry stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like, okay, now there's a time and place for everything, but like, you can't sit here, and mental health is a big issue. And when you sit there and you politicize it and you try to profit from it, and that's all they do. I mean, they don't give you no real solutions on any of that. And
Perfect example is California. I mean, you know, California has what I call a street people problem. It's not necessarily a homeless problem. It's a street people problem. When I was out there, and I worked out there for a while as economic development manager, for some reason I got assigned other duties as assigned, and one of them was to do what they called the homeless count. Well, I call it the street people count, because when I did the homeless count for one of the cities in Southern California, I had to go interview the folks, and 98% of them were either drug addicts or mentally ill. And for a state that professes to be so caring about individuals, they allow these people to live on the street, and they're making bad decisions. If you're mentally ill or you're on drugs, you're probably not making really good decisions for yourself.
exactly right.
And how humane is it of a society to allow those people to be on the street when you've got the economy that California has? So you've got people like Gavin Newsom running that state that are just running it into the ground. that's why people are leaving California.
Yes,
And I was an early California refugee.
Me too.
You know, after college, I moved out here in '89, and because I could see that California was already starting to be a problem. As a college grad, I wasn't going to be able to afford a house out there. So as a single guy, I moved out here, and this was opportunity out here.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, California is a great example of what not to do in a lot of cases, and the homeless mentally ill issue is a big deal because they don't put the resources where they actually can be effective, and you know, it's a shame. It's a shame.
Yes, I agree.
I mean, that's why South Carolina is so important to me, is we don't have to fight some of these same battles that other states have.
Mm-hmm.
We can start at a place where we have a supermajority in our House, we have a supermajority in our Senate. You might not realize that when you look at the legislation or the fights that go on, going on right now at the State House while we film. But we do have that. And I think that as we get more people involved, it's kind of like you saw the Senate sisters. They all lost their primaries here in South Carolina, and they got national recognition for that. But the people, the voters said, that's not a South Carolina value that we're going to have.
Exactly right.
And they used the ballot box to make that point heard.
Yeah.
And that's powerful.
And
I mean, that is what we have in America, is the ballot box. And I'm thankful for that. And I really do believe that is.
And we had a little bit to do with that too, because one of the sister senators we helped unelect.
Yeah.
Because we went ahead and made endorsements, and we endorsed someone other than the sitting senator, which ticked off a lot of people. But again, it's an aggressive stance that we made the decision to do in Lexington County. But it's because, as I explained to people, and I've explained to reporters and whatnot too, is that it was a decision that was made because in Lexington County, we're a red county, we're very red, but if you're going to have an impact on the election, you have to vote in the primary. Mm-hmm. And one of the things we're trying to educate people is you need to actually be a part of the primary process. Don't just vote in the general elections. Vote in the primary.
Yeah.
Because that's, especially in a county like ours, that's when you're going to elect your representatives. And we got involved, and it went to a runoff. And then we endorsed the non-sitting senator in the runoff and actually worked to help him get elected. So you can make a difference. Don't ever let anyone ever tell you one vote doesn't make a difference. We've seen that where we tried to help a local town council member, and he lost by 22 votes.
Wow.
But got over 1,000.
Yeah.
Right. So, so we're going to hopefully help him in the future as well. And so you can make a difference. You got to get out and you got to work, and you got to be involved with the group of people that want to work, that actually want to get out and do the work. That's the thing is we've got people in Lexington County that want to get out and do the work, have the time to do it. If you're, again, with the position that we're in, being pretty much retired, Debbie, having the opportunity to spend a lot of time, a lot of the other officers, the same situation, we have the time to go dedicate to it. Because if you're going to do the job right, it's almost going to be a full-time job. And you're going to spend hours each day doing it. And that's why I think people are excited about what's going on in the county, is because they can see the activity, they can see the action, they can see the successes. Yeah.
And it's good to see that commitment. It is. Like I say, I was invited to come to a meeting, and, I was like, wow, we don't get that participation and where I'm from in Fairfield. And so when I saw that, the daggone room was packed. Up against the wall.
Yeah, I had about 120 people, I think, at that meeting you came to.
Yeah.
And we're consistently over 100 all the time.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and most county parties aren't like that. I go to other county party meetings when I can, local, and they've got when I first got involved in Orangeburg 30 years ago, and I was first vice chair in Orangeburg, we were lucky to have 10 Republicans get in a room. Orangeburg is not a very safe place for Republicans. Let's put it that way. But a lot of other counties, if you get 50 people in a room, that's a good showing.
Yeah, it is.
Well, we consistently have over 100. And it's because people want to be there for some reason.
And it hasn't always. So now, just to clarify, this is after you guys took your position, right? Once y'all got everything ironed out.
To be fair, there were pretty good crowds occasionally when we had the meetings at the Chamber of Commerce, but we moved over to the flight deck because the Chamber of Commerce cost us money.
Yes.
And at that point, the chair at that time had taken the checking book away, not her fiduciary obligation, but she did it. And fortunately, we were able to get that money back later on, several months later. But at that point, we didn't have a checking account, so we had to go someplace that was free. And the owner, Ted, over at the flight deck was really accommodating, and people buy dinners there, and it fit with his business model. So it worked out great for us. So
and he's phenomenal.
Yes,
he is.
He's very
but
supportive.
we're encouraging him to expand. Also, let you know. So because I've had,
We're packed.
yeah, we're packed, and I've had complaints from folks saying, "Hey, it's too full in here." So Ted is talking about trying to do something to help us out.
Yeah.
But I was actually surprised, me, and maybe it's just because, I got to sit at the front. And so you want to greet people, you want to talk with people. And so you're constantly working through a meeting. And so you're not coming to just eat versus like we just came out of First Tuesday lunch where that was great. I don't plan that or anything. I just come as a participant and I ate dessert. It was great. But, I've been surprised how many of our members just love coming to eat. Some people come and don't, and that's totally fine too. But it's just been a really good fit for everybody. So we're thankful for that.
And I love the layout of the place, like the history. Just, I mean, it's an overall, it's a pretty cool spot.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, our meetings, our business meetings. So the challenge that I have as chair is to try to make sure we move them along, that we get in and out within an hour and a half or so, because that's about the attention span that most people would want to have for a meeting. But we do try to run them based on Robert's rules to make sure that we're protecting the minority group people there.
Yeah.
Minority as in the minority thinking process of maybe of some piece of resolution or something. So everyone has a chance to speak, basically. And but at the same time, in order for it to really function, we have 40-something voting members that are usually there, and really the discussion needs to stay with those voting members, because the idea in our party, as everyone probably knows, is the power is supposed to be at the precinct level, and we need to have the precincts functioning. The precinct should have a president that runs the precinct, and then we should have an EC that comes to the county meeting to participate in the county meeting to vote on issues. So we have 96 precincts in Lexington County. Not all those are organized precincts, and but of the organized precincts, those are the voting members that come. But we try to have the meetings not be so kind of stale or formal that people don't feel like they're getting something out of it. So Debbie does a great job of during her report as first vice chair of bringing along folks and trying to give them some information to come out of, like they feel like they got something out of value. So you've talked about Republican, what's the founding of the Republican Party? Giving people information on that during your reports.
Well, last time, we just walked through the legislative process. A lot of people don't really understand how that works. Or if you see a bill and you think there's a way to make it better, at what point do you get involved, and how do you do that? How can you get that point across and be influential to see that change? And that's what's really important. Like last year, there was a Senate bill that got out of the Senate and had moved to the House. That's when I picked up on it. It was about school boards, about live streaming meetings, and there was a loophole in it. So not all meetings had to be streamed. And so this year, with the new session, as it went back to the Senate, they skipped subcommittee because it had passed favorably last time. It went straight to the committee. And so you don't get to give public comment there, but you got to hit it before. Like I watched lobbyists and I was like, how do they influence this? Like, I don't have any money. I'm not putting any money to, but I have time and I can show up in person. And I've been to the State House. Oh goodness. About once a week, about 6 or 7 times so far this legislative session. I'm going again on Thursday. I was supposed to go again tomorrow with somebody else, but we're going to roll it into Thursday instead. And that's how you do it, is it's that FaceTime with people. It's explaining things, whether you're talking about impact fees or you want to talk about annexations, you're going to talk about school board meetings or whatever. And that bill ended up, I worked with some senators and they made the motion right there in the meeting. And the committee chairman who sponsored the bill was like, well, duh, like obviously that goes in line with the purpose of this bill. And it passed out of committee. I followed it all the way to the Senate and it passed without opposition. So it's now in the House. And that's the difference that like one person can make, is you can. And then when you when you multiply that and you get other people behind other bills or other things that you want to see happen in your state,
yes,
that's where the true power lies, is people coming together for that common cause. And that's exciting to me, is seeing what happens at the state house. I go to a lot of town council meetings or county council things, and I keep up with that too, but it's just all these different levels. And sometimes people need to find what their passion is, what their fit is, and we can help plug them in. If I don't know and Mark doesn't know, well, we can find the person to help you know how to get plugged in so that we can work towards something better.
yeah,
And the individual can really make a difference. I mean, just you individually have made a difference in that. And it was fairly easy to do, just
Right.
talking to people and going through the process. But if you don't know how to do that, you need to come in and get involved in something like your local county party and see if they can help you do that. We're going to help you do that in Lexington County.
Yes.
You want to get involved, we'll find a way to plug you in, and you can make a difference.
that's amazing to hear. So, what would both of y'all consider your most significant accomplishments during your time as the chair and first vice chair?
For me, it's just kind of stabilizing things. I mean, we were in a tough time. Things were crazy. We didn't have a checkbook, like I was saying. One of the things that I'm passionate about it, and I just, we were actually having some real concerns at meetings of people getting ugly and angry and violent. And so one of the things that I just decided to do was, if I'm going to be part of this organization, I'm going to try some way to stabilize it. And one of those things was just to take some money out of my own pocket and hire off-duty police officers to be there. Uniform presence tends to calm people down real quick.
Yeah.
And that was, I think, a big deal. Cost me a couple $100 per officer per meeting, but it was money well worth it if I was going to have to try to herd these cats at the time. And so
that's
things calmed
amazing.
down.
It was even, I mean, that the fact that you did that out of your own pocket, like that's
Well, I feel
that's
blessed.
your commitment right there. I mean, honestly, like that's going all in my mind.
Yeah, because we're trying to be servants.
Yeah.
We're not trying to do this I'm not trying to pad my resume or anything. I've done all that. I'm 63 years old now. I've been on town council. I ran for county council down in Orangeburg. I've been on planning commissions. I was on the hospital board down in Orangeburg.
You bring a ton of experience.
I've done a lot of this stuff for a long time, and my wife is saying, "Well, wait, we're supposed to be retired." We're just getting ready to file for Social Security. I can't believe it. I told my 89-year-old dad out in California. I said, "Dad, can you believe you have a 60-year-old son? You're really old." But seriously, we're doing this for the right reasons. My kids were born in Orangeburg. My grandkids were born in Orangeburg. My daughter lives in Orangeburg. My son's in school out in California, getting out of the military after 5 years serving in the Army. But this is my home. I care about it, and I want to get involved, and I want to be a public servant. So for me, stabilizing the party, making sure that the party can function well, my administrative background and skills in that. I went to school, I got a bachelor's, I got a master's from Winthrop in business. That's my skill set. So to me, that was the thing that I could bring to the party, is helping in that. And so I think I'm fitting well in that role. Debbie's been a critical part of what we've been doing too this last year to try to keep things together as well. And I don't know how do you answer that question, Debbie?
I would look at it this way. I would say Mark is really good at the forest and keeping everybody in the forest and moving in the right direction and feeling welcomed. My job is like documenting where every tree is, so to speak. So one thing I've done with a small team that we have is we've revamped our county party rules. So as you know, you can only change those at county convention every other year, and then you're stuck with them otherwise. And we have county party rules that conflict with our state rules. We have county party rules that cite statute that doesn't exist anymore, because we've changed those laws. And so they're really out of date. We have parts where you can see it's been pieced together. Like it'll say, here's your secretary's job. And then the next page is like, here's your secretary's job. And it's not quite the same thing. And so we've combed through in order to line up with the state party rules, which we have to default to anyway. We removed things like in Lexington County, we're the only one who would allow your steering members to vote, even if they weren't an EC member. Well, that not only is it, not accurate, but it would pad the voting numbers in Lexington County, but it also conflicts with the state party rule. And so lining up and merging those two together, so we're good to go. And I really hope that at convention that we can pass the rules package without any problem. We've presented it to the body in January, February, and March. We worked through it all committee, like from late last summer through until December when it was finished. So we're good to go on that front. Last time at county convention, we broke quorum before we even got to the rules package, which was sprung on us, and it doubled the number of pages and was presented literally the night before.
Wow.
And so this is a totally transparent process that's happening now. Anybody who wants to get involved and be part of it can give input on that. That's completely fine. It's been brought to the body in chunks, so it's digestible. I would say as far as first vice chair, the thing that I'm most proud of that we accomplished and did was creating an endorsement committee.
Mm-hmm.
Because our whole point was we want to vet. So not only did we create questionnaires for different offices, we were researching candidates. If they were an incumbent, we were looking at their voting record and said, how did this line up or not with the Republican Party platform? And we didn't endorse in every race. We just endorsed in races where we felt that that could make an impact. But what we saw is when we brought our party in and our members in, is we saw a huge increase in the number of primary voters in Lexington County. And as Mark mentioned earlier, the real election in Lexington is your June primary or runoff. It is not the November election. It's predominantly, there's very few Democrats who run. We have a senator who just a portion of his Senate district comes into Lexington County, and a House member who's just a portion of the district comes into Lexington County, but everywhere else is Republican. Mm-hmm. And so the primary is really critical. And we saw such an increase in turnout in the voter primary. And we're talking, in some precincts, 35-40% plus increase from June 2022 to June 2024. We had people, volunteers. I'm door knocking out there for my county councilman. I'm over here door knocking for a state senator. Just whatever it is. And we saw such a huge increase in the number of primary voters in Lexington that's what I'm most proud of. That is the purpose of a grassroots organization, is to help provide information, because everybody, when they're campaigning, they say the same things. They say, I want transparency. Well, what does that really mean? What have you really done?
Yeah.
And they all talk about lowering taxes or whatever else, right? They kind of everybody has the same campaign pitch. Yeah. And so we want to come in and just help educate voters with another kind of metric, another bit of information. It's not that we're gatekeepers and we may change the process in the future. That's up to the body. And I'm not a voting member of our body, neither is Mark. But it's up to the body and what they want to do. But the fact that we're getting involved and trying to make a difference and educate people and make them aware, a lot of people just don't even understand the process of how local government works. Mm-hmm. And so that's the biggest thing. And when you see people actually get to the ballot box, it is amazing. And my heart goes out a little bit to the election workers. I worked the elections in 2022, but the primary, the runoff in the November in a large precinct, one of the larger ones that we have in our county. And it is a long, full day. I clerked it. It's long, it's hard, but that's what this is about getting people to the polls and having them cast their ballot. That's their voice. And we just want to amplify that voice. We want them to feel heard. If they tell a sitting senator that you don't represent us anymore, then that is what it is. We made that judgment call as the body. They voted on that. And the voters backed that. They supported that overwhelmingly. And so that's what we're about.
And it was pretty exciting because of what their endorsement committee did and the work that Debbie did and the members of the endorsement committee, we partnered with an organization called City Elders. And City Elders did a Christian voter index. Mm-hmm. And it was a front and back side, and we had a lot of people involved with it that played a critical role in doing that and analyzing it. And what they did is they analyzed the incumbents' votes, and then also used the interviews and the questionnaires that we did to formulate kind of a rating system. Something like, John Birch Society does it. A lot of people do different rating systems. And we had a red, green, yellow, good, caution, bad, but then also a percentage. And then we had all the details of how we came up with that. And we talked about that and partnered with City Elders, and City Elders put this out. And it was really gratifying to go to church and to see people holding taking our flyers or holding our flyers and taking them to the ballot box to help them make informed decisions. It was a piece of information that we played a part in, but again, it was a somewhat unique. And we have to have an impact in our community. This last time, we participated in doing some text messages for some of our school board races. And that's something that we want to do now more, since we now have some funds to do that, since we've recovered some of the funds that we've had from the prior situations. So, we're trying to do everything we can to actually have a real impact. And I think people are seeing that.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. That does. Smallest thing, like I say, goes a long way. And so, yeah, that's good stuff. Without, so I know that you guys recovered from a pretty massive, backtrack from the previous year. All right. So what other challenges did you face since you guys have been in your positions or whatnot? And how did you address them? And what lessons did you learn from them?
Well, we're having a little bit of an issue, going on now, where we've got a team, and I think we talked about a little bit that we have a team. We have a couple holes in that team. We're trying to fill those at the next election. We had somebody that was on the team that was participating with us that removed himself from the team, so that required us to kind of look and see what's the next steps with that as well. Mm-hmm. What we're really just trying to do is get the right people in the right spots, have people that are working and committed, and that we're all working together. So the biggest thing is to try to not take things personal when people are making it personal, when they're making attacks, and try to realize that we're mission focused, that our mission is to support candidates that support the platform and the mission of the Republican Party, and try to continue to stay focused. A lot of times there's a lot of noise out there, people trying to confuse issues, people making statements, and you just have to kind of go beyond that. And that could be anywhere from conversations that I've had with legislators to people that are running against you at the county convention. You just have to kind of say, look, this is where we've been the last 14 months. This is where we're going in the future. And if you like where we've been and where we're heading, then let's keep going, because like we had talked about earlier, I think we have a unique window the next 2 years where people are still excited from the national election, and we need to keep them involved, even in ruby red counties like Lexington. Yeah. So I think it's just critical to kind of stay focused, stay mission focused.
I agree.
Yeah.
How about you, Debbie?
Sometimes there's just a lot of noise. Like, I know there's messages on my phone today that I haven't gotten back to yet, and I will get back to them. But everything doesn't always have to be like this rush or this emergency. It's the focus on the things that we're doing. I mean, we're just at First Tuesday lunch. Mark Hiem, the Secretary of State, spoke to us. There's a lot of really neat things that his office does. His office runs very streamlined. Mm-hmm. They are revenue generating. They have 34 employees. I think just in the conversation I had with him, I think there's a lot that could be modeled about how that office runs in other agencies when you look at DOJ or something like that at the federal level. And so I'm over here working, and I don't live on Facebook. I mean, if you look and if you're friends with me on there, I don't even put things about my family on there. It's political, it's information, it's campaign time, it's things like that, so that people locally can connect, because sometimes it is an effective tool to share information, but drama is unnecessary. It detracts from our mission. And as Mark mentioned, I mean, our mission is the same as it is for all 46 counties in the state and the state party, and it's to promote our platform and elect candidates who support it. And we are just mission focused. Every day when I get up, that's what I want to do, is what are we going to do today that helps our community? Yeah. What is it? What's the meeting today? What's the agenda today? What's the contact we're going to make today? And I think when you develop those relationships with people that you can work with them, even if we disagree on things, or I disagree with a vote to raise taxes or whatever that might be, at the end of the day, I need to understand their position and they understand my position. And, it just so happens that I'm just a nobody. I'm just a regular person. So how I feel about a lot of things when I talk with people tends to be reflected. So, for example, when the former mayor of Lexington wanted to turn Lexington into a tourist destination a couple summers ago and annex 93 acres up at the lake and build these 8-story high, hotels and 5-story high condo and apartment buildings, all this really dense stuff. And I asked a councilman at a meeting, I said, what protections have you considered environmentally for the lake? And he looked at me and he said, well, I hadn't considered that. Well, he's in real estate.
Goodness.
Okay. And I'm over here and I would not describe myself as a tree hugger. I love the trees. I happen to have a lot of trees. I'm surrounded by the woods at my house. I love the trees. But you do have to be a good steward of the things that you have.
Exactly.
And so I think for us as we just continue to work, but as I knocked doors that summer on the town, I mean, there's roughly 8,000 households in the town limit. And we hit probably 6,000 of those doors.
Goodness.
We hit a lot of doors. I mean, we're just constantly every door, and we had a flyer that this grassroots, it's just a kind of this organic thing where everybody said, wait a second, we don't want to turn into Myrtle Beach 2.0. This is our home.
That's right.
And the developer or the landowner ended up pulling that off, but the town council was going out of order. They went to, I think, first reading at town council when normally it should go through planning commission first. And anyway, there were some things, but as you develop those relationships with people, you can make an impact and change how that government operates moving forward so that it is more transparent. But the thing that I learned most about knocking doors all over town is so many people feel the same about it, and they're busy living their lives. They're working, they're taking care of kids. They've got issues. They've got difficult things that they're dealing with. It's life, right? Mm-hmm. And if they can be tapped in, knowing that somebody's following it closely and gives them kind of the cliff notes, that's what they need. That's how you engage people and get them in, because people really do care, but they can't sit there and watch every town council meeting for the last 2 years to figure out what's really going on. And so as you develop people in different specialties in different areas that can follow these things closer, you develop this network that is really just the eyes and ears of what's going on, whether it's local or whether it's at your state house or anything else. And I think that's the beauty of the team that we have started to build in Lexington County. When I see now at ReOrg, when we had members of these other grassroots groups come for the first time to be part of the Republican Party, that's because they want to come, they want to be in the same room where you have the people who are in positions to make these decisions. They have that authority because we've elected them to do that. But that's where you can bring it together and bring everything full circle to really do the best. I mean, I just really genuinely believe that we just all kind of want the same things. We might disagree on how to go about doing it, but I really believe that we have a lot more in common than not. And we don't have to have a fight. It's not us versus them. It's all of us working together for the betterment of our community. Yeah. And disagreements, a lot of times they're not bad. It depends on, like you said, how do you approach them? So it shows your individuality, for one, because, there's a lot of people that they just go with the flow. And so sometimes that's a good thing, because a relationship that might not be as strong, you have that one disagreement and you work through it. Now you're closer than ever because you've had that moment, and it's just like, okay, like this brought us together. Yeah. Okay. We can do this. Like we just work through this. It's just like a relationship, like my wife and I, so it no different. There's a lot of times her and I disagree, but we have to figure it out. And, and then ultimately it makes you stronger in the end. So yeah, that's a good thing.
Yeah, for sure.
That was scary when you said Myrtle Beach 2.0. Like that would have been, in Lexington, that would have been scary. But like a realtor, and don't even think about the lake. It
was a bad location too. I mean, in reality, it was right near. It was a congested point over near the dam, and it didn't make the traffic studies didn't make sense what they were doing. There was a lot of things that were really kind of concerning on it. And as anyone knows, and anyone's traveled through Lexington at a rush hour, we've already got issues. Lexington was never a planned community to have that kind of traffic flow, and we don't have bypasses, and so it's a challenge. And you have to make intelligent decisions when you're allowing and having development occur. And we know Lexington's exploded in population, so we've got to be cautious about how we go about make good decisions.
Right.
Yeah. So I know we spoke on community, and so how do you guys plan to increase your community engagement and ensure that the residents, are represented in the county on their decisions moving forward whenever you take office here Saturday?
Precinct organizations are the key again, as we talked about. That's supposed to be the power of the folks. We need to continue to reach out to the unorganized precincts and try to get them involved. We're inclusive, as Debbie was saying. We want to be a big tent. That's why part of the rules, the state party rules, allow us to continue to have voting members come to county convention up until 5 days prior to the county convention. So voting members in our community could have signed up to be participants in the county convention up until just a few days ago. Because we want to get more people involved. We're trying to grow the party, and we're trying to make sure that we have more people get involved, and they have to find again ways to feel like they're having an impact. And if we can get the precincts working, if the precinct president would organize their precinct of 20 people and say, over in Irmo, they have an orchestra or something, they go ahead and they have, they kind of lead the county party's efforts to participate in the parade over there. Okay. And that precinct could be the catalyst for that. Or in Lexington, when the JCs have their Christmas parade, have one of the Lexington precincts kind of take the lead and be involved in that. And then continue to do other events at the precinct level to get people to form relationships at that level, and then be able to bring those people and those issues that whatever they have to the county level. The county level, then we pass resolutions and we try to impact legislation, and we bring that to the state level, either right through the state party resolutions that we pass, but we also provide those resolutions straight to our legislators, so they can see what we're trying to do, what we're interested in. I mean, we've done a lot of those things, and that gets people involved. Medical freedom obviously is a big issue right now. And like I said, we talked about earlier, we're going to continue to participate in that. We've passed a lot of different resolutions to have an impact and to try to get people to see that we are trying to do meaningful things. So reaching out to them, using social media responsibly to get people involved. I'm not a social media guy. I'm not that generation. I'm older, and so I don't see the value sometime in some of the things that we do on social media. I think social media can be very destructive when people can be what I would call keyboard warriors, and they go out and they want to pick fights with people online. I would rather have a conversation, face to face, and
that's me. And
try to have a calm conversation about the issues and deal with those. But if people are trying to blow things up on social media or whatever, I don't have a lot of patience for that. But it is a tool to get people involved. To have a really good website and Facebook presence, I think, is important. But to continue to realize that we want to use those tools to benefit our organization and to continue to bring more people in, because bringing more people in is the key. Like you're saying, get more people involved. Mm-hmm. I don't know, what can you add to that?
Our county spans quite a distance. We have from all the way like the very, very suburbs of West Columbia, right off Columbia. So it's more urban. They actually have like an urban overlay with zoning even out to where it's very rural, very sparse. And so we have this big variety of people. And so one thing that some of our areas at the precinct level do is like in the Pelion, Fairview area, like they have, when it comes time every other year for their primaries, they invite those people that are going to be on the ballot to come, and they kind of have their own town hall that's really specific. So you can come and those are the people you're going to vote for in that part of the county, which is different than over like in the Irmo, Columbia area where they like to do something there. And so I think as we continue to build this network and this accessibility to our elected officials at all levels, I think that my hope would be that we can have more of these precinct areas. And it doesn't just have to be for that precinct. They'll double up, triple up, whatever kind of makes sense for their ballot that's coming up. Invite it. And you can have this really really casual but close accessibility to the people where you can come. And then as you're involved, I mean, I don't know about you, but people ask me, oh, Debbie, I know you follow this. I have friends all day long on primary voting day. Debbie, who do I vote for? Who do I whatever? And I'm like, well, here's what I recommend, but I'd like to also tell you why I recommend this as well.
That's right.
And so when you get people that are engaged and knowledgeable, that spreads out. I mean, it's just roots, and the tree goes up and the branches go out, and it just multiplies.
Yeah.
And that's another wonderful way to use the precincts to grow in a way that's impactful and meaningful. And then if you pair that like with a Run Red program, which Mark wants to bring in, which I really want him to talk about, but that's when you're building a pipeline of candidates, because you want regular servant people, like you want just your regular everyday people to get involved, and they got to come in, they do their duty, and then they go home. This should never be a career for people. It should be a duty. And
that's a good point.
Yes.
And I hate that we have a career now. You can be a politician, and that's your career choice.
Your career. Yeah.
You know, Joe Biden is a great example of why that's a problem.
Yes.
He's never had what I would call an honest job. He's been a politician his whole life. We need public servants. We need people. Our founding government, our founding principles were people like you and me go and serve in a public capacity and then go back into our community. It wasn't intended to be a career. And so in order to try to find those people and try to encourage those people, I want to formulate a program that's called Run Red. And I'm borrowing a great idea from another county, out of state actually, that has developed this program. And we just want to take the good things that they've decided in this and bring it to us. So basically what it is Run Red, run for red, run for the Republican.
Yeah.
And basically it helps the candidates vet themselves, but also really go through the process of, hey, am I ready to be a candidate? So you're trying to develop a pipeline, and you're also trying to develop relationships with potential candidates. So we don't have Republicans running against Republicans unnecessarily. We had some of that with surprise candidates that all of a sudden popped up. We lost a Senate seat that was winnable for Lexington County this last time because we had a surprise candidate pop in that we were unaware of. Now, part of it was because of the dysfunctionality that we had previously in the party, but part of it was because we didn't have a program like this that could help with that. So the idea would be, if I decide to run, I would get involved in this Run Red program. We would have consultants and professionals come and help on helping you hone your skills and your being to be a candidate. Have you gone through the process personally to know that your family is going to support you? If my wife would have a real problem if I ran for public office right now. But your family has to support you. Will your job support you? Are you going to be able to have the time to actually get away and do this? Are you self-employed? Can you do this? Or is your employer going to allow you time off? Do you have the right look? Is there something you need to change? Do you need to change your haircut, the way you dress or whatever, to be more presentable, to be more affable to the voting populace? Are you obviously right on the issues? What kind of issues are you going to be running on? And are those issues that you really should be running on? And are you conservative? Are you going to be a good Republican?
Yeah, are you really passionate about it?
Yeah.
Treasurer. I mean, if you're going to run a campaign, you have to raise money. Are you going to be able to raise money? Are you going to have a treasurer? You need to have a treasurer. Probably not a spouse or a family member. Are you going to have a consultant to help you with some of these things? Yeah. So some of those we can bring someone in, someone like you, Brandon, where we can have somebody come in and get a chance to film somebody, because if they're going to do a commercial, it's probably good for them to see what they look like on camera. Go through that process and get a little more comfortable in talking into a microphone and talking into a camera and feeling comfortable with that, so you can present yourself the best version of yourself. So it's going through a whole process of that, coaching people, helping to bring them up, and helping to build a pipeline of candidates, all the way from school board to house seats, and trying to again bring in the right kind of people to represent us, to be public servants.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
I like it.
yeah, it's one thing to be an elected official. It's a completely other thing to campaign for that. That's not the same job. And so if you can help
Exactly.
find and train and guide people to bridge that gap from campaign to office, and you keep this pipeline, like we had a party member approach us just right before the primary, and he said, hey, I'm in a position where I can serve. I'm passionate about it, right on the issues, conservative. But my county councilman isn't up for election, and they're great anyway. I have a wonderful House member who just served a first term. I want donated money to them to support them for their, first re-election campaign.
Mm-hmm.
And same with the Senate. Said I have a great senator running, so they don't feel needed in the moment now, but that's good to know that in the pipeline, we can have somebody waiting for as people do their duty. Sometimes some of your good politicians will stay on because they don't have somebody to replace themselves yet. And so you kind of become the hub of this filtering of information that comes to make sure the right people get connected so that we can continue this process. Cause it's messy, but it's a constant flow. It's like just everything jumbled around, but there is order to it. And so you can connect people so that they can talk about who intends to still run, who's looking for a replacement. Recently, we were at an event and Curtis Loftus spoke, and he mentioned how hard it was to get somebody else to run for treasurer. Part of it was the pay issue last time. It was not competitive. And he had like 3 people, and then he'd bring them around. Like he was looking to have somebody replace himself.
Yeah.
And he couldn't find that. And now, now there's all these other issues going on with the treasurer's office and all those, reports and whatnot. But good people want to help bring in good people so they know, because there's people who will run for an office and they'll run for a public body and they've never even been to a public body meeting, believe it or not.
Oh, wow.
And then they get on there and they're like,
crazy.
and suddenly they're sitting at the front voting and making decisions, and they have no idea what they quite stepped into. So if you can build and help people come on and they get a sense of what to expect, or they say, yeah, I really think this would be a good fit. I feel like for me, first vice chair in this season of my life is a really good fit. I'm really passionate about that. And I worked to understand these different levels of government. And I found myself kind of in these inner groups, whether it's watchdog groups at your school board or your town or your county, or being involved in the local political party. And the beauty of that is you can bridge that gap and you can make things come together and put people in touch. And then you see that grow as now, I had dozens of people come that I had met through this work to the last ReOrg 2 years ago. And then that branched out and even dozens more came this time. And so that's how you really get things done, is just educating people on what it is, and people step in where they feel compelled to serve, where they have a skill set and they can be effective in something, and they have the passion and drive, and it's a good fit at that time in their life. And then, I'm not going to do this forever. Of course not. And then somebody else will come in. And so that's really what this is about, is it's creating that moving part that we can carry on the work that needs to be done.
Yeah. Trying to get the right people involved is critical, and trying to train them up and help them. I've been to campaign events where the candidate doesn't want to ask for money. And so that's an example, again, of one of those things where you have to have somebody designated to be that money asker. Say, okay, y'all are here, y'all have had some food, y'all have had some drink, y'all support this candidate. Now it's time for me, as one of the candidates, supporters, is to ask you to pull your wallets out and donate some money if you can. Because a lot of times the candidates don't have that skill set. So having, those kind of people be involved, trying to build out that for every person that potentially is going to run for an office is critical. Yeah.
And so I know you hear a lot of people talk about accountability and transparency, right? So when it comes to both of those, how do you guys view accountability and transparency? Like, what does that mean to y'all? As in your role as chair, your role as vice chair, or just overall?
Well, generally, as a chair of any kind of organization, if it's a large organization, there's a lot of things that are happening on a daily basis. And so you try to bring in the officers, which we call the steering committee. And we have monthly steering committee meetings. We have a bunch of various other committee meetings. So we're trying to get as many viewpoints, as many inputs as we possibly can. like we talked about with the finances, of having a monthly treasurer's report, auditing those books, those are critical. That's obviously a big transparent thing. Following the money is always really critical. And so it's, that's one of the main things. Having communications and open communications. At some point, if you're having disagreements, you have to try to have those conversations one-on-one. And usually if they stay civil, then you're in good shape. If they start to get kind of caustic or toxic, at some point, you have to kind of figure out how you're going to deal with that situation. And, you continue to try to be as transparent as you possibly can. But at some point, conversations, if they're into a toxic nature, you kind of just have to kind of limit some of those conversations.
I agree with that for sure.
Because at some point, it's not productive.
Yeah.
And again, as my role as the chair is to grow the party and to make the party stronger than when I left it. And so that's going to continue to be my focus on anything when it comes to disagreements or, transparency, is to try to do what we can to be as transparent as we possibly can, knowing that, again, a large organization, you're going to make decisions. You're going to have to make, what they call executive decisions at times. And you're not going to talk to every person. I'm not going to talk to, I'm not going to talk to the third vice chair about every decision that I make as chair. That's not my role, to have to talk to every person. My role is overall broad, just like the third vice chair is to take care of membership and outreach, and just like the treasurer. The treasurer's role is very is the fiduciary for the party. That's their primary focus. When we get together in a steering committee meeting, we talk about all kinds of issues, and that's where some of the controversy and things have occurred just recently, where we've had steering committee meetings and a lot of things have been said, and those are intended to be between the leaders and trying to kind of strategize sometimes on things. Like we talked about filling those two holes in our leadership team. It was, again, an idea of trying to get the right people in the right positions, not try to be kingmakers, not trying to make decisions, because we don't vote. At the county convention, we have a vote just like every other county delegate does, but we're one of 300 people that have a vote. Transparency is critically important. And I think we do an excellent job of that, contrary to maybe what some people have alleged recently. And I'm happy with my record. And like I said before, the way we've handled things in the past, we're going to continue to move forward in that direction if I'm reelected.
Yeah. Accountability. Another thing for accountability that we do is, Mark calls it lessons learned. So we do an event, we put it on, and it's lessons learned. And it's not just sitting around talking about it. When we had our endorsement committee, and we had our endorsement committee lessons learned. And so I don't sit on that committee as a voting member, but I'm like the leadership over that and help guide and form that as our team does their work. And so when that was finished and we had our lessons learned from the June primary, and I asked the chair, can we just write that out? And so he gathered the feedback from the committee, and it's a written document. And we used that when we got to the school board elections in November, and we said, okay, what are the lessons learned from that? And so we're constantly, one of the lessons learned we had from ReOrg was the sound audio. We were in a new facility we had never used before. We wanted to support the model of a charter school. It's through the American Leadership Academy Patriots. And the audio quality, maybe we didn't have things set right. Maybe we weren't holding it right. We set up the night before and walked all through that with the screen and the microphones and everything. And we thought we were good with a staff from the school. Yeah. But then we got there the next day and kind of had some issues. And of course, that's really critical for county conventions. So what do we do with those lessons learned? We go down to the school. Mark went a couple of times. We're speaking with the athletic director, because they're the ones that will help us set up the cafeteria. He takes us into the room. He tells us, I'm jotting down my notes. It's 13 on this knob and 3 over here on this knob. He's telling us you got to hold that microphone close like you're licking an ice cream. Well, that's really helpful, because when you're there and it's garbled, and we tested it at lunchtime. So there's 200 kids in this room, which is about what we had at ReOrg. And so I'm walking around the room and Mark is on the microphone and we're testing this out. That's the lessons learned. That's the kind of accountability and feedback. What are we going to do? Because 4 weeks later, we need the same facility and we need this to be a success. We need to have clear, crisp sound. And so I think we've got that squared away and we'll find out on Saturday. But that's accountability. That's lessons learned. That's picking up. And when you're putting it down on paper, so it's there, because one day our endorsement chair isn't going to be there. It's going to be somebody else. But what are those things that we have documented that we can just keep moving and building on what we have? Because we essentially, I mean, I describe it as we had to build from under the ground. I mean, we were in a hole. It wasn't from the ground up. We were in a hole. That's and right. So we rebuilt that in 14 months. We'd like to keep going. We want to take what we've built, which is good. But I see this vision. I see this for the future just a little bit more, and we can be even more influential, and we can help educate our community more, and we can really have self-government even here at a local grassroots political party level. Yeah. And that's our goal. We have so many elected officials who are coming to county convention, just so many. I love to see that. And it's not even just legislators, it's local government people too that reach out and say, hey, I want to come. I want to be a part of what you do. And that's what I love to see.
Yeah. That's got to feel good too, honestly, especially
it's rewarding.
Like you say, to dig it out where it was, and then to see where it's at now. And then you're getting, people reaching out, wanting to come, wanting to be a part of it. I mean, that's, yeah. And then visualize, and that's, manifesting, if you can think it, you can achieve it. So, when they say the sky's the limit, I say, nope. I'll try to reach for the moon, and if I miss, I'm going to grab a star. I'm going to grab something. So, that's, you pretty much set your path and stick to it. So I like that. Mm-hmm. That's pretty awesome right there. So when the, your top priorities for your next term, so this is going to be, your strategic vision, your next term, right? So what are your top priorities for the next term, and how do you plan to adopt the party strategies to change in political and community dynamics?
We'll grow the party. Again, in my role, it's to, have a strong party. So grow the party, realize that we are a big tent, and we want to be a big tent. We've become a bigger tent under Trump. We've attracted a lot of people that hadn't been involved in the past. Mm-hmm. So try to find a way to get them engaged and involved. Again, I know my personality can be a little bit drier, and so I think part of that is I want to make sure that we have opportunities for people to have more social events through the Republican Party. Okay. The business meetings that we have are business-like, and I try to get the business done, and that's my focus. I realize that we need to have more social, because we need to develop relationships. Debbie and I, being involved and together this past year plus has brought us closer together, and so we are more friends now than we were before. We were just basically mission focused completely and didn't really know that much about each other. We just knew that we had common goals and common aspirations, and when it came to the party and our local community. So I think developing those relationships needs to happen in more casual environments. And so we have to have safe, casual environments that are healthy and good to develop those relationships and communicate. So we've got to find other social mechanisms to do that. There's something that I've been thinking about for a long time, having a lunch event maybe where it's a little bit more casual. I was, thinking about calling it the Liberty Luncheon, but having some type of an event where we may be able to draw other folks in that don't come to a Monday night meeting. Monday night, 6:30. If you've got kids and a family, it may be difficult. Yeah. And so maybe we try to have some kind of a weekend luncheon occasionally to bring new people into the party and get them involved. For us to be a lot more active, like we talked about, having the precincts be more active and encouraging them. We started that process. We've had some district chairs that I appointed that haven't done as much as I would like to see them do. And so the district chair role is to be over a certain geographic area of precincts, 15 precincts, say, because again, we have 96 precincts in our county. So we're hoping to have like 6 different district chairs that would break up the county into geographic areas, and those district chairs would work with those precincts. we've only had really a few district chairs that have been successful in trying to do anything really. So getting the right people in those positions to help those precincts become more active, again, to get more people engaged. So I think that's kind of the main focus. Finances were in good shape. Morale, I think, once we get through the election, I think, people will have a chance to come back together. So just getting more people involved. Structure wise, I think we've got the right pieces, the right committees, making some changes on those, to continue to change with the times and change with the personnel that we have in different positions. But I would think, getting more people involved is really what we want to do, finding avenues for them. So that would be my biggest goal kind of moving forward, I think.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, bringing in the Run program that Mark talked about, that is critical. And I just want to help educate people more about how this all works, because I really do believe that as people learn more, they realize that they can give. So I sit on a county board, and we have somebody on planning commission from the same kind of what started out as a grassroots group. Mm-hmm. And somebody sits on planning commission now, somebody sits on the something with the water, somebody else sits on the COG. And so you just start to get people in different boards and commissions. And there are a lot of boards and commission spots that are open, even within our county and even across the state. And people can take the skills or the interests or the expertise that they have, or in my instance, I wouldn't call myself an expert, but I'll be there, and I follow those zoning codes, and I've watched county council change. I watched them update our comprehensive plan, which hadn't been touched in several decades, and update zoning and whatnot. And so as you learn more how it works, you can slide easier in a position to be able to give in kind of a more formal position. And and then you just kind of go from there, where people feel compelled to lead or to help, or where pieces shift and teams need people. And I think that's the goal for me and for us, is for this team, is to just continue to expand on what we started. We just got a little taste of it, I feel like. And I think that we can continue it. I love that we have elected officials reaching out and saying, hey, how do I get involved? Right. Hey, I want to come to your meeting and speak sometime. Yeah. And that's what we want. That's the access. That's the influence that we've worked to develop. And I think we just keep taking that all the way.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I like it. Yeah.
One thing I was just thinking about too is, Debbie being on the zoning board of appeals, our legislators have made comments to us and we just saw that at First Tuesday again with the Secretary of State that was there, indicating that there's a lot of different boards and commissions that have unfilled positions. There are people, across the state. And on his website, what is it, like sos.sc.gov. Yep. So sos.sc.gov. Mm-hmm. You can look at that and find where your boards and commissions are. So anyone across the state can look at it and see who appoints. And it sounds like it's pretty robust. I haven't seen it, but it sounds like you can go on and look at all the vacant positions, all the people that are serving expired terms. So people will stay in a position until they fill it. Well, if they don't have someone to fill it, then sometimes those people just continue to stay on, even though they haven't technically been appointed to that position. But you can go, anyone from across the state can look at that. And I would encourage anyone across the state, and especially in our county, to get involved, find a way to apply to some of those boards and commissions and get involved, because it helps you, one, train on how to work together on a board. It trains you in, a lot of times, Robert's Rules of Order, so you understand how a motion is made, how it's seconded, how it's voted on. You start to understand the basics of the way that our government works. Mm-hmm. And it can help you in whatever you do, whether it's in a volunteer capacity, on a local, PTA, parent teacher organization, or on an actual commission. But getting some experience on that and applying and talking to your legislators, finding out from that Secretary of State's website of what those are, will really help us all in the community. It helps our state. It helps our county.
Yeah.
So hopefully people will get involved in those things as well.
And we'll plug that website too, as well. So everyone that's listening and watches, they can sit there and see it and go apply for sure.
Yeah, I haven't gone on it, but it sure sounded like it was good. sos.sc.gov.
Yeah, well, I know. I mean, you can go to even your delegation page. So your delegation is every House member, senator that has even just a little portion within your county. So, we have, I think, 14 or so in Lexington County. And you can see, because sometimes you have to be appointed through your delegation. Other times, like mine, I'm just appointed by my county council. Sometimes the governor has to sign on things. And so it's just another way for people to get involved and help out. And these boards and commissions, a lot of them meet maybe like once a month. You might have a couple hours of training a year, but they might meet once a month, and they might meet less than once a month as well. Your municipalities have them as well. And so just getting people plugged in where they can help, because it takes all of us. I mean, we have what I would call a decentralized local government, is that we put our elected people in, but there's boards and commissions that help do it. And so no one person is making all these decisions. I mean, even in Lexington, we have like a weak mayor form of government in the town. So there isn't one person that can control so much. It's a lot of people in their own lanes, different lanes, working side by side to get things done. And it's really critical that people learn what their role is, what their lane is, what the parameters are that they can operate in, and then be able to execute that job.
That's right.
And they learn that through those commissions. I mean, again, when I was kind of going through my experience, being a planning commissioner was a city appointed job. Being on the hospital board down in Orangeburg for 4 years, I was actually appointed by the guy that I lost to when I ran for county council, because he probably put me on there for 4 years to stay out of his hair for 4 years. I would rerun against him, but it was a county council appointed position. Run for your local town council. That's how I got involved in the town of Cordova and was a 2-term council member there. Community Services Commission, I got appointed by a town again. There's all kinds of things that you can get involved with, and it helps give you the skill set to take that next step. Yeah. Whatever that next step is, whether it's working at your kid's school, your grandkid's school, on some committee or something, you'll feel qualified and have the knowledge to do that. And so it really helps you in the future.
Yeah, that's awesome. That sounds good. Yes, sir. Is there any message that you guys would like to say to the viewers before we call it?
Well, just, I'll just reiterate again, I think we've done an excellent job this last 14, 15 months, whatever it's been now. I was elected 2 years ago, stepped into the role as chair when I felt the need, and I feel the need to continue doing it because, as we went through the process and talked in our steering committee meetings, I made it perfectly clear that I was going to run again, that I think the quote was, I wanted to keep the team together. And I sincerely wanted to keep the team together. One of the team members decided to step away, and that's his decision. But we're going to fill any vacant roles we can with qualified folks. We're going to recruit people to come in and fill those roles because we want a well-rounded team at the county level in Lexington to complete the mission, which again, to elect Republicans that follow our principles and our platform, and that's what we need to do. So I'm just happy to do it again, and would love to have 2 more years to finish it out, because as we talked about before, these next 2 years are going to be critical.
Yes.
It parallels what's going on at the federal level. We've got 2 years for Trump to get a lot of things done at the federal level. I want to parallel that excitement we've gotten from the Trump bump and keep that going in Lexington County. And so I'm excited to do that for the next 2 years, and hoping people will support me at Lexington.
Awesome.
Yep. If you like what's been going on in the Lexington County Republican Party, which I think our numbers reflect that people do like that, the enthusiasm, the massive voter turnout increase. We've still got a lot of work to do. Still, most people don't vote in the primaries, but in a few short months, we got cranking on that, and we saw a huge increase. If you like what you see, vote again. Vote for us at County Convention. If you want to shake it up and do something different, then you have the ballot box to make that known. Yeah. So we just want to keep working, whether it's in this capacity or in anything else.
And we aren't going,
right.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and we aren't going away.
Yeah.
Win, lose, or draw, we're still going to be in the game and in the fight. So So we're going to be there.
Yep.
We just hope to be there in the capacity that we're in now, because I think we're the right people at the right time.
Well, it sounds like you guys have been very successful as a team. So, I mean, again, I joined you for a meeting. I came to the ReOrg at the school. So, and it was God, I walked through the door and I was like, whoa, it was a great turnout. I thought so. I mean, compared to what I've seen in other places, it's phenomenal turnout. So, and when you have people that you're represented, when they're reaching out to you saying, hey, how can I come? How can I get involved? I think that speaks volumes. I mean, it's a lot of times I see where you have to reach out to the representatives or anyone and say, hey, can you come speak at my meeting? Not the other way around. Not saying, hey, look, we see what you're doing. We notice, we see this. So can we come and be a part of that?
Yeah.
I think that's pretty cool, and that speaks volumes.
It's a really good sign when someone that you think is going to run for governor asks if they can come speak at your meeting.
Yeah.
Especially when that person is also the Attorney General for the state.
Yes.
And a resident of Lexington County. So, I mean, we want to hear from our electeds. We want to have an opportunity to interact with our electeds in a respectful, direct, and, sometimes somewhat aggressive manner to make sure we get answers to the questions that we want. And we're finding that is what's happening.
Yeah.
And we're really happy about that.
I've got an elected official reached out again recently and said, hey, I have some ideas. I want to run them by you. And this isn't even an elected official that I can vote for because of where I live. But it's because I have a pulse on the people that they're seeking that input out. And that's where you know that you have the ability to help shape and guide for what's best for the people and to help represent that voice.
Yeah. I like it.
Thanks a lot for spending so much time with us. We appreciate that.
Oh, it's my pleasure, honestly. And April the 5th. So you guys are going to be at the same location?
10 o'clock,
10 o'clock.
American Leadership Academy, Highway 6 and I-20, basically.
All right.
Thank you, Brandon. Appreciate the time. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for giving the coverage here to Lexington County. I truly appreciate that.
Yes, it's my pleasure. And it's been an honor to speak to you both. It really has. So, yes.
Thank you.
All right, guys. That was Mark Weber and Debbie Hiem, the chairman and first vice chair for the South Carolina Republican Party in Lexington, South Carolina. Stay tuned for more and tune in April the 5th to find out the results.